You want to repeat this process over and over and over. But what you really want to do is you want to go as fast as you can without a capacitor, for the simple fact is you want to put a lot of this radiant energy to the source.
Do it! 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 Who's doing it? Do it! Do it! All of it! Do it! Come on! Do it now! Now we'll do the rest.
Oh, these cookies! Put that cookie down! Now!
want to repeat this process over and over and over. But what you really want to do is you want to go as fast as you can without a capacitor. For the simple fact is you want to put a lot of this radiant energy to the source. process over and over and over. But what you really want to do is you want to go as fast as you can without a capacitor. For the simple fact is you want to put a lot of this radiant energy to the source. You want to repeat this process over and over and over. But what you really want to do is you want to go as fast as you can without a capacitor, for the simple fact is you want to put a lot of this radiant energy to the source. without a capacitor for the simple fact is you want to put a lot of this radiant energy to the source. You want to repeat this process over and over and over. But what you really want to do is you want to go as fast as you can without a capacitor, for the simple fact is you want to put a lot of this radiant energy to the source.
Loves them and she should. I'm just saying, when they pretend to teach how gravity tech works, I get scores on this planet are over Uru Ox. The more, which is very fractal, golden ratio defines most orbital dynamics and defines how to make and stabilize gravity around the universe. Spirosolaris.ca. So the nodes of that array get connected when they're fractal, hint golden ratio. And you see what's going down the nodes of that array after the implosion into the longitudinal EMF coherently propagating is a series of harmonics of golden ratio multiples times the speed of light. Now, famous Professor Raymond Chow's famous measurements of speeds faster than the speed of light, absolutely centered around golden ratio times c, the speed of light, which is a smoking gun, is only the beginning. Actually, the bigger the vortex, the more the coherent harmonics times golden ratio times the speed of light means the number of dimensions you live in. Ain't that fun? Yeah, that's why the galaxy war, the Orion Wars, the implosion into the longitudinal element creates action at a distance. Well, entanglement is a how gravity is made. That's the only definition of electrogravity of these Nazi Vimana Bell. They were, how do you do that? You need to implode. Very romantic, is also on space-time. Okay, anyway, so the publications are all at this, and I'm going to just review Planck length and large vortex. Not only can in the mercury gravity, which you could teach after you learn them, but so if that microwave cascade came to a point more longitudinal one way than the other, so you're beginning to get a, I mean, it does not compress. I mean, it does not propagate. I mean, it is a charge collapse, which is a cause, because only mostly biology does that. Hello. So anyway, when it hits the shore, that vortex curve of the wave, we're talking about, and because the side of the vortex is the curve of the slope of the shoreline, the compressional wave is converted. A major part of the inertia is converted by bouncing against the side of the vortex of the shoreline into the up and down component shear wave called transverse wave. We're talking about a water wave here, but we're directly implying the metaphor of electromagnetic wave. So that up and down component called transverse, which is traveling perpendicular to the direction of propagation. So the transverse electromagnetics is what all our radio, all our communication, everything is based on, even though our sound waves are based mostly on longitudinal component. The point is that physics does not know how to deal with, to communicate with, to make radio of, anything to do with longitudinal electromagnetics. Most physicists don't actually know what a longitudinal electromagnetic wave is, not to mention how to send it and to receive it, because only mostly biology does that. Hello. So anyway, when on the left, the transverse up and down wave hits the side of that vortex and goes down the vortex if the vortex is the right angle. Remember, we're getting to how a charged vortex makes gravity. This is the key point here. So that the transverse wave from the left bounces down that vortex if the vortex is the right angle. Hint, see the side view. It looks like a caduceus. That there is 510 spirals of the golden mean on that precise vortex cone, which I have proved by equation is precisely the reason and the way hydrogen exists. Planckfire.com. So this is a physics professor's graph of the structure of hydrogen after they learn why an object falls to the ground and after they've seen my equation for the structure of hydrogen, exact golden ratio multiples times Planck, called Planckfire.com. The cause of charge collapse, which is the cause of gravity, consciousness, life force, and all negentropy and all action at a distance. So when that vortex converted the electromagnetic transverse on the left down the yellow brick road of the vortex, on the right, then begins propagating as a longitudinal wave. The point is to begin to understand that when the transverse wave hits the side of nuclear critical mass or your mind, when the transverse wave hits the side of the center of the plasma sphere, sometimes called a Foo Fighter, a Tic Tac. No, I mean sometimes called a plasma domain. When the transverse wave hits the side of a plasma domain, it makes a mess. I mean, it does not compress. I mean, it does not propagate. I mean, it is not effectively stored. I mean, it does not efficiently bounce. I mean, the transverse wave actually ain't the fun part. No. As we're going to show the slide of Tom Bearden's book in a moment, Electrogravitobiology, proving that gravity waves are made of only the longitudinal component of the electromagnetic wave. Hello. So if that vortex is more one-sided, then out the squirt gun of the nozzle precisely tuned by Planck on the right here, not only are you now propagating longitudinal waves instead of transverse, but you're squirting them like a squirt gun directionally. What if you could stand at the center of a vortex and squirt more longitudinal waves one way than the other way? What would that be called? Hint, clue, gravity. The asymmetry of the propulsion. Now we're going to get to when you take two oil drums. Visualize two oil drums, one inside the other, and between them you got this mercury vortex, right? Well, that mercury vortex has a certain asymmetry, spitting out more longitudinal one way than the other. So you're beginning to get a clue here that if you can stand in place and spit out a longitudinal wave directionally, this is the print. Now, here's another simple example just to kind of visualize this more clearly. So here's this famous doohickey, the physics electrogravitic, called the EM drive. You can see it in the background here. It is a trapezoid shape down which a microwave cascade is bounced. Now, these idiots, these scientists, do not happen to know that if you tuned that microwave bounce to Planckfire.com, you would make more gravity. Because they're dumb. Sorry. It's just because they're dumb. But so if that microwave cascade came to a point tuned by Planckfire.com, namely the perfected caduceus, namely the perfected fractal phase conjugate charge collapse, cause of gravity, called Planckfire.com. So that squirt gun now is squirting the longitudinal EMF due to that implosion directionally, which is the physics of how and why the EM drive makes gravity, which you could teach after you learned why objects fall to the ground. Oops, I think they might have a problem. But you just visualize. So the vorticity of the liquid crystal, the other good image of this actually is the, imagine this is the mercury vortex. It can be a water vortex or it can be a mercury vortex. The point is, for example, when it's a water vortex, it must be piezoelectrically charged. And the angle of that vortex, idealized 60-degree implosion cone, hint nest of dodeca, hint implosion. So when the angle of that vortex is correct, when the charge waves crash into each other and non-destructively impress, complode, self-cancel, the result of that self-canceling perfect caduceus phase conjugate charge collapse is the direction of the imploded longitudinal EMF goes one way. So whether this vortex is piezoelectrically charged water, whether it's piezoelectrically charged mercury. Now, in the case of the Vimana Nazi Bell, this is the mystery that all the dummies really haven't sorted out. In fact, originally in the Vimana, they used a certain wetting agent in the liquid mercury. And this is why mercury's in the pyramids, by the way, also too. It's a gravity maker. It's a gravity diode, pyramidwirelesspower.com. So they used a wetting agent to make the iron powder soluble in the mercury, the famous red mercury, because you have the mercury has high inertia, very useful here, but now you have to have that mercury vortex be highly charged, conductive, magnetically flux permissive, hence the dissolved iron powder making the mercury red. And the other famous mystery there was, well, the Nazi Bell Hanabu was radioactive. Why? It's actually quite simple. It's just like the famous Paul Brown nuclear battery, a very small amount of radioactive component has a quasi superconductive induced effect. So a very low amount of radioactive component in many electric circuits, example, Paul Brown famous nuclear battery, makes they got enough radioactivity from welding rods to make the nuclear battery work. I mean, it wasn't rocket science. Well, it was rocket science. So by making a low level radioactive effect of the gamma, etc., made the mercury vortex quasi superconductive. Hint, now the charged vortex not only can implode, but it can implode with electrical efficiency. So that's why the famous Nazi Bell, was actually radioactive. Now, there are much more elegant ways to do this. We're going to get to the fire crystal shortly. And the Nazis, even they were smart enough to dump the mercury.
Do it! 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 All of it! Do it! Come on! Do it now! Down to the rest.
Thank you.